welcome to Bands or Artists That I Just Don't Get. My name is Juice Vox, and today I'm talking about music that I just don't connect with or appreciate the same way that the rest of society at least seems to. And before you hear some artist or band that you love and get angry at me or something, just remember that you have your own demons too. You have your own artists or your own bands that you don't like. Maybe you're a bit embarrassed to admit that you don't like them. But I've challenged myself, at least in this video, to be as honest as I possibly can. That being said, I am a relatively young guy. There is plenty of room and time for my taste to develop and change and maybe mature a little bit. Just remember that this video is like a snapshot of my current musical understanding or misunderstanding, as the case may be, for these artists at this stage in my life. That being said, without any further ado, it is time to completely ruin my credibility by launching into some potential mind blowers straight off the bat. Bob Dylan. I could probably tolerate half an album, maybe on a road trip or something. It kind of suits that vibe for me. But I wouldn't be able to listen to a full Bob Dylan album intently and analyze it and unpack it the same way that I do with other albums and enjoy it. I swear it's always half a verse and then another harmonica break. It's just too many harmonica breaks, and I can't personally get past the whole Bob Dylan voice thing. I know there's so much more than just the sound of the singer's voice, but it's ubiquitous. It's ubiquitous. It doesn't go away and it doesn't get better, and it's important to me. And I swear his voice literally breaks in the opening line of All Along the Watchtower, and I'm just like, they didn't do another take? It doesn't break in a good way. It breaks in like a puberty way. I know it was ye olde days, but they could have done another take. Spacey Jane are currently a indie rock band here in Australia. They're very popular at the moment. I've written some things that I do like. I like the riff in Feeding the Family, and I wrote that Thrills is good. Thrills is the first song off their debut EP, although it sounds a lot like a Concrete Surface song called Roma Street, and that song isn't representative of anything else that they do anyway. Literally everything else that they do for me has been completely forgettable. There's nothing for me to hold on to. I feel like I've reached out to try and grab something, and I just cannot come out the other side with anything that I remember about the song or any catchy bits or anything like that. It just doesn't stick. I don't know why. It just doesn't stick. The Eagles. I feel like I sort of might get the Eagles in the smallest way possible, but I know it's not the same way that everyone else does. And I feel like it's a combination of maybe it being an American thing, and I'm not American, and maybe a bit of a generational thing. I feel like if boomer rock was a genre, then the Eagles would be part of that genre. Next, Elton John. I've so far in my life only met a couple of types of people who like Elton John, and that is old wealthy white women who grew up in the 70s as his music was coming out. Another generation of wealthy white children who have secondhand nostalgia from their parents constantly playing it in the house as they were growing up. And then also people who see it synonymously with The Lion King. And I haven't seen The Lion King. I'm one of those people, and that might just have to be something that you accept about me. I haven't seen it, and I don't plan on seeing it. Sorry, not sorry, really. I'm Still Standing is a good song, but it is an outlier, and it doesn't really represent or align with much else that he has done, really. And I don't like piano ballads. Really, just in general, I don't like piano ballads, and Elton John is, in my misunderstood mind, he is the piano ballad guy. Birds of Tokyo. Going back and looking at some of their earlier stuff, it's actually a lot more raw and a lot more edgy, and I kind of like that a bit. But they've developed into the music that you hear in the supermarket in Australia or on ads for insurance. And it's difficult to have an insurance ad with a good song. Or if it's too good a song, then it's probably going to be a bad ad. Genesis. I prefer it when prog takes me on an adventurous journey. I feel like with Genesis, it was never a journey that I wanted to be on. Rather than going from Narnia to Wonderland, it felt like I was going from Grafton to Perth, or something like that. Although, actually, I'd much rather go to Grafton or Perth than wherever Genesis was trying to take me. Mötley Crüe. I feel like with Mötley Crüe, they joined in on something that was already kind of popular at the time period, and they just kind of did a decent job of kind of perpetuating that at the time. Their anthemic songs, where I'm supposed to kind of shout along, just don't really stick with me personally. And I feel like if you've heard a couple of their songs, you've pretty much heard them all. David Bowie. I've noticed about myself that I'm a bit resistant towards artists with weird voices or weird inflections in the way that they sing, and I don't like the way that David Bowie sings generally. I liked Space Oddity and Changes were two songs that I could connect with to a certain extent, but nothing else really stuck with me. I can respect his contribution to all things glammy and weird, and as a historical figure, I'm glad that David Bowie exists. But that's about as far as I can go while still being honest. Bob Marley. Now, I am going in completely historically and culturally blind whenever I listen to Bob Marley's music or reggae in general. And at this stage in my life, I have not found much reggae that I've been able to connect with and enjoy personally. That can change in the future. I hope it does. I hate to just like cut off a whole genre. I think that's silly. But at this stage in my life, it just hasn't happened for me yet. Bon Jovi. Other than shouting along with the lyrics that I know that I'm supposed to be shouting along to, I don't really get what people enjoy out of Bon Jovi. And I think I mean the wider Bon Jovi experience. So I understand enjoying the hits like You Give Love a Bad Name, Living on a Prayer, that type of thing. But he has multiple platinum selling albums. And I think that that's different. And a lot of it to me is just that kind of cheesy glam rock for which I don't have a very large threshold for how much I can enjoy before I gotta listen to something else now. Drake. It comes to me not being able to relate or make any connection to him or with his lyrics. With some of it just making me question, if he's a good person. I mean, I still enjoy listening to troubled artists who make good music, but with Drake, I just don't have any opening into his world to begin with. I don't resonate with any of the hooks that he'd be using to try and reel me in, and I just don't connect with any of his music. Bit of a theme going on here. Imagine Dragons. It's not particularly cool or interesting to like Imagine Dragons, and it's not even particularly cool or interesting to hate on Imagine Dragons either. Lots has already been said about how uninteresting their music has been, but their popularity and ubiquitousness persists. The 1975 are just a bit kind of sappy for my liking, and when they're not being mopey and sappy, that feels like it's cheesy, dumb dance pop, and I can't dumb myself down enough to enjoy that music, and maybe that's my problem and not theirs. The same way that it's difficult for me to go to a nightclub anymore and dance to the music there. That's totally my problem. I should probably sort that out within myself. Meatloaf. Again, I've noticed a trend within myself that I have trouble listening to singers with unusual voices or odd inflections in their voice. The further along you go into Meatloaf's career, the worse it has gotten, pinnacling with his horrific performance at the 2011 AFL Grand Final here in Australia, the performance of which was so bad that they were blocking and claiming any and every video that had any snippets of his performance in it, and they weren't uploading it either, so you know that they weren't just exercising their copyright. We know that they were trying to hide it, really. Additionally, I think that most of Meatloaf's songs indicate that he is stuck with the brain of a dumb, horny teenager with some very contradictory religious views to pair with that. But then again, most of his big songs were written by his lifelong songwriting partner Jim Steinman, so maybe I should be blaming Jim instead. Sorry, Jim. I am a little resistant to these extensive ballads in general. I prefer making discerning and precise little pop packages, but these ballads to me feel ultimately shallow and immature. You could argue that he's capturing the beauty of youth and naivety, but then why is he capturing the exact same shallowness and immaturity every single time? So I really don't like Meatloaf nor him as a performer, nor do I really like the songwriting and arrangement of Jim Steinman either. A general rule of thumb for me with Meatloaf and most of his music is that the best part of his songs are the bits that aren't his. So we're talking about the singers around him and the musicians he's working with. Kind of like Shaggy. Let's add Shaggy to the list. Shaggy, for what I just said. And that's the end of my list of bands or artists that I just don't get. There are many, many more, unfortunately, but I've saved them for a rainy day. I've saved them for later. Only time will tell if something changes regarding my musical tastes, or maybe something will click in the future. I don't know. Maybe I'll keep you updated. But I encourage you, the viewer, to let me know if you have any music that you know that you just don't get. Some people don't get whole genres of music, and maybe that's you. And I want you to vocalize your ignorance. I want you to parade your misunderstanding. And I'll march with you into the abyss of public humiliation. Thanks, see ya, bye.